Okay, welcome everybody. I hope the audio is okay. Let's start with the bad news first. Julian is not here today. He's feeling a little bit under the weather, so I'm going to wing it just by myself. I have some interesting things prepared and some interesting points I want to dive in. Of course, as the title of the Twitter space says, Bitcoin's fight for 20,000. So general markets and macro landscape will be the first part of the Twitter space. And then I want to bring up a few things that are dear to my heart and that are happening within the broader crypto industry. And I would say the main topic for September, it is hard fork September. So we have a hard fork for Ethereum, we have a hard fork for Cardano, and we just had a hard fork for DFI. And I want to go into all three of them. And then I want to talk about Cake community specific things and dive a little bit into the products and into the features and things that are coming to Cake within the next few weeks. Maybe tease you a little bit. Some of you might already have seen a few nice tweets on the Cake Twitter profile where we are teasing some new features that are coming to Cake. So bear with me. I'm going to, this is my first Twitter space that I'm actually alone. I might open up the session in the second part as soon as I run out of things to talk about. And I might invite a few people, of course, only people that we know or that are following the Cake account to join the discussion. But let's see how everything goes. Maybe just to head things off as a start and to kind of go into the topic that the Twitter space was usually set out to be, and this is Bitcoin's fight for 20,000. And if you're following us through these Twitter spaces, you know that Julian and me, we like to talk about the macro landscape because currently there is a super high correlation between Bitcoin, all crypto assets, and what is happening on the macro landscapes. And we have two very, very important events coming up within the next 2 weeks. So next week, Tuesday, I think this is the 13th of September, we have new CPI numbers coming in. And the CPI numbers, they usually affect the Fed's decision on how to move forward. The whole space and the whole general markets, they are dependent on the Fed's guidance into the future, if they are keep hiking rates or if they are thinking about a pivot, has a super large impact on liquidity, and the liquidity impacts has a direct impact on prices. So if we are going to see that inflation peaked next Tuesday, so if we get a lower CPI hit, then the chances are that the Fed is not going into a 75 basis point hike, which is expected right now. So as soon as the Fed sees a prolonged decline in inflation, there is a chance that we might seeing a slowdown with, or even a pivot, maybe into the midterms in November. So the most important events to watch are the 13th CPI print, and a week later, I think on the 20th of September, we have a Fed meeting coming up, and both these events will have a larger impact on Bitcoin's price and on the crypto market in general. We could see that we slightly trended lower the last few days, so we kind of broke the 20,000 support. And usually, if we do, so 20,000 is a big psychological barrier, big psychological number, and usually, if we break these numbers to the downside, there is more pain to come. Now, the thing that you as an investor or as a trader need to be aware about is a large majority. So Raw Paul brought this up, I think, a week or two ago, and I think his perspective is super interesting because he practically doubles down. He says, okay, there are lots of surveys in the general market, and there are lots of surveys in the crypto market, and a large majority of investors, so this is 60-70% of investors, are super bearish at the moment. So they think lower prices are about to happen, both in like S&P 500 or the NASDAQ, and also in Bitcoin. And what he says is, look, if there is a large majority of investors that think that lower prices are about to come, their capital is already allocated accordingly. And it might be an interesting idea to play this with a contrarian view, because we had the same setup a year ago in October or in November, everybody was allocated for Bitcoin to go to 100K. Everybody was expecting it to move to 6 digits, and it didn't happen. And I feel the same could be true right now. Everybody's expecting Bitcoin to go to 15K. Some talk about 12K. And if a majority of investors and their capital is allocated accordingly, there is, of course, a big chance that this never comes to fruition. So this is probably the mind game or the thing that you want to think about going into the next 2 weeks. And of course, the outcome of these two events, and especially the actions of the Fed, will have a decisive impact on where we are going. So if we go and be a little bit specific with the things that are happening in September, and this is hard fork September. So let's start with Ethereum. So the Ethereum merge is decided, the block is set, this thing is going to happen. And with all of these hard forks, there are trading opportunities that everybody needs to be aware of. So a lot of people, of course, they allocated their capital for the long term, and they kind of don't really care that this hard fork is happening because they're allocated for at least 5 years, or they see this as a long-term play. But of course, there is a larger majority of people that are looking to gain from these events and that have a set game plan on how to play it. So we have about 7 days left if the hard fork is expected, or 6 days. The hard fork is expected, I think, for the 15th of September around midday time. This, of course, may vary. Some people say it's the 15th. Some people say it's the 16th. So there's still, and a larger majority of people feel that, so there's 4 different outcomes. And I want to refer to a Medium article that Arthur Hayes wrote. Especially when you were thinking about an Ethereum trade, you practically have 4 different outcomes that influence the outcome of that hard fork. So these 4 things are practically, it's only 2 things, but 4 outcomes. So the 2 things are, is the Fed going to pivot? Will we see more quantitative easing? So easy money on the market, more liquidity. This is the first outcome. And of course, there is a yes and a no. Yes, they pivot, and no, they will not pivot. And the second thing is the Ethereum hard fork going to be successful, or is the Ethereum hard fork going to be delayed or not successful? So if you play these 4 outcomes, you have Fed pivot, yes. Ethereum hard fork successful, yes, which is the most bullish outcome. And lots of traders are, of course, speculating on this. And then you have the absolute bearish outcome, the Fed will not pivot and the Ethereum hard fork will not be successful. And the 2 is in between. I will not tell you on how to play this because I don't know anything more than you, but it's in the end of the game, it is setting up a plan, having a strategy, and then executing on top of that strategy. And this is also true for the other 2 hard forks that we'll dive in just a bit. So Ethereum is probably, this is the biggest thing that is happening probably since, I would say, the hard fork that Bitcoin had in 2017, which resulted in Bitcoin Core and Bitcoin Cash. There is a lot of discussion and a lot of noise happening around that, a lot of theories on that there will be something similar to Ethereum Classic, which will be Ethereum Proof of Work, and of course Ethereum Proof of Stake. So there, in the end, there probably will be 2 chains, which I'm fairly certain on that the Proof of Stake chain will be supported by the majority of users. And why would you say that? And why is this? Why I'm fairly certain about this is a larger majority of users in the ecosystem, they don't care if it's proof of stake or it's proof of work. And one of the core things when it comes to value is the network. So the people that are actually using this, and everybody that will not care about this hard fork, they are probably they're just moving over with everybody else into the proof of stake ecosystem. And a proof of stake ecosystem, like you have big exchanges that will influence who is going to hop over and who won't hop over. So the bigger staking pools, the exchanges, OpenSea, like centralized institutions, they're all going to go with the proof of stake chain. And meaning all of their users will automatically be on the proof of stake ecosystem. So the proof of work is probably going to end up similar to other Bitcoin forks like Bitcoin Cash or Bitcoin SV. They still exist, but in a larger perspective, and sorry if I step on your toes now, but they're kind of irrelevant. Just the market made a decision and it went with Bitcoin, and probably the same will be true when it comes to Ethereum. So how to play this? Is this a buy the rumor, sell the news event? Like, if you listen to Arthur Hayes, he wrote an exceptional Medium article on this topic. I can very much recommend, if you want to deep dive into the topic, definitely read the article. It's a bit of a mouthful. I think it's around 40 minutes of reading, but it's definitely time worth spent. He also had a really good interview. If you're not into reading, you can go to the Unchained podcast with Laura Shin. She interviewed him, I think, 2 or 3 days ago. Very good interview. And this is a little bit of the too long didn't read of his Medium article, where they dive into certain things. And it's a little bit more up to date than the Medium article, because the Medium article was written in July, I would say. So how to play this? Arthur thinks this is not a buy the rumor, sell the news event, because he thinks it's not really priced in, that a lot of people are kind of anxious to see how this goes, and he gives a likely probability to this will go and actually work. So the transition will be smooth and the transition will work. And if this is the case, he expects that there is a lot of capital waiting on the sideline to jump into Ethereum. And another thing is, there is the code to actually unstake your ETH is not there yet. There needs to be a Shanghai update. So a lot of people, all of the people actually that staked their ETH, will actually not be able to sell this probably for another 6 months. And you have this, what they call the triple halvening, so that the newly emitted Ethereum will get a lot less than they are right now, which could, of course, have a very positive impact on the price, because you're constraining the supply and the demand stays the same, or even it will slightly increase. So there is definitely a lot of things that you could play when it comes to the hard fork. Let's shortly dive into the other 2 hard forks that are happening. The one is ADA is also going to have a hard fork, I think, on the 22nd of September. And they have Vasil is the name of the hard fork, and they say this is the most important hard fork until now. So the major impact that the hard fork will have is it's going to make the ecosystem more efficient, and it's going to be more developer friendly. And of course, you could already see some movements in price of all 3, actually, both all like DeFi chain, Cardano, and Ethereum, all made out of the ordinary price moves in anticipation of the hard forks. So I'm not very knowledgeable in the ADA ecosystem, and I have no clue in how positive this hard fork will be. If you want to trade this, if you want to invest into this, I would recommend watching a video or 2. I think there are several good threads that summarize everything that is going to happen. The one I know a little bit more about is the DeFi chain hard fork, and this was just happening 2 or 3 days ago. And in anticipation of that hard fork, we saw a price increase of almost 100%, a little bit more than 100% on the Bitcoin pair. So this was happening between like 14-day time frame, where we saw the DFI price from, I think, the low 3,000 Satoshis going up to the low 7,000 Satoshis. And right on the day of the hard fork, right about an hour or 2 later, we saw a big sell-off. And I kind of want to jump into why this is happening. And because, so if you go into a community chat, a Telegram chat or anything, you will see a lot of people asking, why dump? Why pump? So they kind of want to understand what is happening. And this is probably the most asked question on socials or on Telegram. And let me briefly jump into this, because I might be able to add a certain twist on why these things are happening. So anticipation on the DeFi chain ecosystem was quite big, because there were a few really, really good proposals that could bring more stability to the USD price. So DeFi chain, they have their own stablecoin, which is kind of not very stable at the moment. So it's moving a little bit into a premium and into a discount and so on. Because it's important to understand the mechanism behind that. And let me briefly go into what my theory is that happened. So to bring more stability to the ecosystem, there was this DEX stabilization fee, which was set to 30%. And the meaning, if somebody sells a DUSD, he pays a huge fee, and the fee that he's taking is burned and brings more stability and burns untethered token in the ecosystem, which is great, but not a lot of people are willing to take a 30% haircut. So what changed with the hard fork? The dump that we saw is mainly due to the fact that this fee decreased from 30% to around 13%. And a lot of traders and everybody that is familiar with the ecosystem, they knew that this is happening. So they were able to accumulate a lot of DUSD under 80 cents, some of them under 70 cents. And they had a really good entry point. So they were waiting until the DEX stabilization fee went through, and they were practically taking a nice 10, 20, some of them 30% profit, even though they were paying a 13% haircut. And this is kind of interesting. And also this is very important for the ecosystem. Let me briefly touch or read you a piece of a few lines that I wrote in one of the Telegram chat. So this dump that we saw in both DFI and USD on Tuesday is practically just everybody leaving the ecosystem that is willing to take a 13% haircut. Plus, of course, we are in a bear market right now. A lot of traders bought under 80 cents and are in profit, even though they're taking a 30% haircut. The old one was 30. And this is a good thing. We need to have these guys taking profit and burning some of their money in the process. For the ecosystem to move forward, it is essential that people do that, because it burns untethered tokens. And the whole reason why this hard fork was scheduled, and the whole reason why this hard fork was happening, is to burn those tokens. Otherwise, we cannot move forward in a sustainable way. And if you just measure it with this metric alone, we definitely overachieved what we wanted to achieve. So over the coming days, the price of the USD will fight its way back to $1 just by the mechanics that are implemented. And in the process of the USD fighting its way back up to $1, there will be a lot of traders that are looking for a good exit point. So it will be a fight, and it will be up and down. It's not a straight line. But what's in the end, the strong hands survive and can now enjoy a stablecoin around $1, because so many others made a sacrifice for them. And my personal opinion when it comes to all of these hard forks is just days when a hard fork or an update happens are not for buying and selling. You know, like 80% of the traders, they are leaving the table with less money than they came. It's super difficult to anticipate if this is going to happen. If a pump is going to happen, if a dump is going to happen, nobody can anticipate these things. And if you're not super deep within an ecosystem, it's usually the better strategy to not trade this at all. You can do a buy the rumor, sell the news. So if you see, okay, these things are happening, ETH is having a hard fork, Cardano is having a hard fork, DeFi chain is having a hard fork, you can anticipate this by a month or a few weeks in advance, and then a day or two before the hard fork, you sell or you go out. If you didn't take the decision up until the day of the hard fork, it's better to not make a decision at all. So you're either playing the short term, so an actual trade, or you're accumulating for your hodl position, and you're playing this for the long run. And to double down on this, let me also talk about another thing that I see in the community a lot. So if we just go back a year from now, if you would have asked somebody in the community, like on social or on Telegram, everybody would tell you, hey, crypto is great. We are at, like 60,000 Bitcoin price. This is going to go to 100,000. This is going to go to 500,000. And I'm committed. I have a time horizon of 5 years, and I'm going to hodl. Most of us would have said that. Of course, there were the ones that said, okay, I'm going to sell if it hits 100K or if it hits 200K, and I'm going to buy back in at the bottom. But let's be honest with each other. Most of us didn't manage to leave the ecosystem at the top. We're still bag holders. We're still holding our bags. But if you ask a community member right now, what is your time horizon? A lot of them are actually looking for an exit point. And this is just what happens to a larger majority of investors. They buy the top and they sell the bottom because it's so hard to deal with the emotions right now because it just looks devastating. You see the macro landscape, the Fed is raising rates, all the crypto prices are down, and it's so hard to see the light at the end of the tunnel. And most of us, when you're here in Europe, for example, most of us are in prepper mode. So you see here in Europe, for example, people are stocking up on wood, people are stocking up on I don't know, batteries and candles because they are expecting blackouts for the winter. And usually during these times where everybody's panicking and in prepper mode, this is right about the time when you should be a buyer. The same for Bitcoin. Bitcoin is below the 200 weekly moving average. And instead of thinking, oh my God, this is actually a great buying opportunity, everybody thinks, okay, shit, we're going to go lower. We are going to see lower prices. And Bitcoin never closed below the 200 weekly moving average. So, oh my God, maybe this is not a sustainable path into the future. But here, it is wise to be a contrarian. You probably will not able to time the bottom. Maybe we're going to drop to 15K into 12K. You have some buy orders there, and they will be filled. Congratulations to you. If it comes to me, I'm not able to buy the bottoms and to sell the tops. I'm in the space in 6 or 7 years now. More than 7 years actually, and I've never been able to do that. Completely the opposite. When Bitcoin was at 65K, I was leveraged long, and when Bitcoin right now is at 20K, I really struggle to convince myself to place big buy orders. I've never had that much fiat as I have right now, and it's just difficult to be a contrarian. So usually it's a good thing when to remind yourself what was the initial plan. When you came into the ecosystem, so maybe you bought in 219 or 220, what was your expectation? What was your initial plan? Were you buying this for the long run, for 5 years, for 10 years? And if so, what changed? Because a lot of people before December 2020, after December 2020, when Bitcoin was at 30K, 40K, 50K, 60K, they said, oh my God, it would be so amazing if I could score Bitcoin under 20K again. And now it's up, so I missed it. But right now, nobody's waiting in line to buy Bitcoin at the prices it is right now. And the same is true for other ecosystems. So yeah, my plan hasn't changed. I'm still trying to convince myself to keep to the plan, dollar cost average, buy and hold, have a long time horizon. And sometimes it is important to remind yourself what the initial outcome or the initial plan was when you started to accumulate your position. A few other things I would like to touch on that I wrote down in advance is, besides the 3 hard forks that are coming up in mid-ish September, so 22nd Cardano, 15 Ethereum, there is 2 other major events that are happening within September. So the one that everybody was a little bit scared about is the Mt. Gox. And they publicly wrote that they're going to start paying out their Bitcoin holdings starting the 15th of September. So right about the time when the Ethereum hard fork is happening. And it is important there's a lot of thought going around. I can make a recommendation. Our CTO, u-zyn, he was very public, so you can go on his Twitter, and he's actually a creditor because he's in the space for more than 10 years. If you want to get first-hand information on what is happening and the communication, he shared that publicly on his Twitter. So give him a follow if you want to stay up to date and you want to have somebody that is trustworthy, that is going to share the information on the moment when he receives it. u-zyn is definitely a great follow here on Twitter. And he's also very knowledgeable when it comes to the space. What is important to understand is not all of these payouts will happen on the first day. So there's scattered over multiple months, and nobody can tell us what this means for the ecosystem, how many of these people will will sell their stack instantaneously. But just my 2 cents on this is these are people that have been into the space since 10 years. They saw what Bitcoin did. They saw the volatility that it has and the ups and downs. Somebody that has spent that much time in the space is fully aware that we are going to bull markets and bear markets. And my guess is that especially sophisticated investors will not sell at a 20,000 price. Of course, they are up thousands of percent from their initial buy in 2012. But my guess, if I would be a creditor and if I would get some of the Bitcoin, I would not dump it instantaneously. I would wait until the prices recover because, of course, I have a lot of commitment. My time horizon is a lot longer than just a few months or a few years. So, and the other thing that is noteworthy is on the 13th of September, the CME, so Chicago Mercantile Exchange, they're launching Ethereum futures. Why is this so interesting? If you go back to, I think it was around mid to end December 2017, so right about the last bubble peak in 2017, actually on the day Chicago Mercantile Exchange launched its Bitcoin future was the day that Bitcoin topped. And it's maybe this is a coincidence, maybe this is a conspiracy theory, but there is it's kind of funny. Not only that, but if you just look into all of these futures and ETFs, they kind of have a very unusual timing. So also if you go back, for example, into October, we had ProShares ETF for Bitcoin launching on the exact day Bitcoin made a top. And not only that, on the day where Bitcoin went down to 17,500, they actually launched their second ETF to short it. And maybe it's just me, but I wish every day before I go to sleep that this is actually the top and the bottom indicator. So their ProShares long ETF practically just went down from the day they launched. And I kind of hope that the same thing will be true for their short ETF that they launched on the day of the bottom. Would be kind of funny, at least in my opinion. Then one more topic I kind of noted down that I briefly want to touch on is something that Binance did. And there was a lot of things that were going around because Binance said they had 3 stable coins and they practically auto convert all of this into BUSD, so into Binance US dollars. The Binance has their own stable coin. And they're practically converting USDC. And a lot of people said, oh my God, this is super bearish. They lost trust in USDC. I actually would say the opposite is the case, because if you auto convert another stablecoin into your own stablecoin, you need to have an exceptional trust level to do that. Because otherwise, if you don't trust that stablecoin and you're offering auto conversion, you're also compromising your own stablecoin. So in my opinion, this is actually Binance giving a lot of trust to USDC. And what's important there is it is still possible to both deposit and to both withdraw in USDC. It's just that you come into the Binance ecosystem and everything that happens afterwards will be in BUSD. But if you want to exit the ecosystem again, you can do that in USDC as it was before. Maybe this is something that is helpful to understand. Okay, what else? We have, oh yeah, let's maybe dive into 2 other things that are kind of dear to me. So I read almost all community messages every day. So I spend a lot of time on Telegram and on Twitter. If you place a comment on Twitter, or if you're an active member in our community, I usually read what you guys have to say. And there is a few questions and a few things you guys had regarding, we used to have this super nice reward dashboard. So there's a visualization on the website where you can track your rewards, how much you make in a day, in a week, in a month, or like during your whole time at Cake. And in April, end of April this year, we took that reward dashboard down, and there was a reason for that. Like with the scaling that we are experiencing, we had the biggest growth in users actually in Q2 and Q3. So right now we are growing a lot more than we are expected to. And with all of these users joining the platform and with all of the transactions that we are happening, so you receive rewards twice a day. And for every user, there is at least 2 transactions. If you're using multiple services, there is more. And in the back end, to scale something up like this, it's just not so easy to solve. But I have some good news. We are in the final stages of bringing this reward dashboard back. It is on staging. We're testing it right now. It's pretty difficult to test because we kind of need to simulate all the traffic that would be happening in real time. But our devs feel extremely confident. So yesterday I actually had a short conversation with one of the devs, and I pressured him into, okay, I need a date, I need a time. What can I say? Can I say next week? Can I say end of the month? And he said, please, we gave so many times already. We said we're going to bring it back in July. We said we're going to bring it back in August, and we didn't. I know, I'm very sorry about this, but if we are going to bring this product to the back, we want it to be perfect. So I pressured him into saying, and he said, okay, I'm okay with you saying soon. And I will leave it up to you guys to give a definition to soon, but it's coming back. It's on staging right now. We're testing it, and you're going to be surprised because one day you will stand up, go onto the Cake Twitter or log into your Cake account, and suddenly it will be back. Then we teased a little bit about 2 new products that are about to hit the market. One we were very specific on. This is Ethereum staking. And Julian already teased this a little bit during a Cake Twitter space. And the big difference in us bringing Ethereum staking and in certain competitors in doing that is we are going to run our own nodes. We're not going to take part in, Lido or other big Ethereum staking pools. We actually will have our own nodes, which is a big advantage. Julian touched on that, I think, 3 weeks ago in a Twitter space. If you want to listen back to the things that he had to say, it was a really good Twitter space. Then we are in the last innings or in the last few days of launching a completely new product that is called Earn. I will not go into the details of that product, and I will also not share the timelines on that, but it's going to be an industry-changing product when it comes to earning on cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin and Ethereum. It's similar to lending, but not quite. And this is something like you will not see anywhere else in the industry. So you can be pretty pumped about that. Also, the last tweet that we made where we teased that this new product is coming, we skimmed through a few of your comments and kind of took note. So all of the things that you're sharing with us underneath that tweet, or when you come onto our Telegram groups, especially the VIP Telegram groups, we are really focusing on what you have to say and what you want for us to bring to the platform. Good. 2 last things that I want to close off with. And these are things that are very dear to me and very community specific. So I got a lot of DMs with people that have been with us for a while. When we talk, let's talk about censorship briefly, because we have big Telegram groups with like 17,000 people, with 10,000, 11,000 people in them. And I do a lot of community management. So we have about 20 moderators in those chats. And a few people reached out to me and they said, hey, why are you deleting messages in these chats? And I want to briefly talk about this. So with every Telegram chat, or it doesn't really matter if it's Telegram or Discord or public chats, there needs to be a set of rules, what is allowed and what is not allowed. Because if you ever spend time on Telegram, it's it's a war zone. there's a lot of scammers, there's a lot of spammers, there is material that is not really made for the public eye. You know, people are sharing very questionable images and very questionable links. So there is a necessity. Our bot deletes a few hundred messages every single day with just people joining and trying to shill a scam or a certain project. So there is definitely a need for censorship and definitely a need to delete messages. The important thing is, where do you draw the line in community management? And this is something that is very important to me, because there is our base rule is we have, let's say, living room rules. So we want to spend time in a chat that is constructive, nice, friendly, and moves in the boundaries of acceptable. It's important to give room to constructive criticism and feedback. So if people want to join our chat room and they have something to say, they're unhappy about something, or they have an input for improvement, or they want to voice their opinion, there is definitely room for that. But in French, they say, c'est le ton qui fait la musique. So it is the note that plays the music. And if somebody comes into our Telegram groups or on Twitter and he voices some criticism or concerns, we are very much open in listening to you and in forwarding this feedback to the right places. But as you surely can understand, this needs to happen in a friendly way. And we're tolerating quite a lot, and we're really easy on. So if somebody comes in and is full of emotions because something didn't went quite as he expected to, or whatever, he made an experience that he's not fully okay with. We usually don't kick out people right away. So what we do is, somebody writes a message and he's unhappy about something. We note that this is happening, and we tell somebody, hey, let's keep it friendly here. Is there a way to help you? And usually you get an answer in our Telegram groups within a minute or two, because our moderators are doing an exceptional job in moderating these chats. When this continues, so if somebody is just there to fight, we usually give a timeout of 24 hours, cool down period, come back tomorrow, and let's talk in a nice and in a friendly way. Of course, if somebody, like in Batman, everybody has seen the Batman movie with the Joker, some people just want to see the world burn. There are people that are coming in and they're just negative, and they just want to complain and voice their frustrations. Sorry about that, but this is not what this chat room is for. There are clear guidelines on how to forward feedback, and if this is done in a friendly way, there is no issue with that. Why am I saying this? Because on the day of the hard fork, on Tuesday, we got a lot of people complaining that usually our withdrawals, like 98% of so, they are processed within 3 hours or 4 hours. And we came a long way. Like, our withdrawals right now, they are really, really fast compared with how they've been a year ago. But of course, on a day where we have a hard fork, it is a little bit difficult to keep these promises, because we have a lot of nodes that need to be updated, and the tech team is all hands on deck. Hard fork days are crazy days. That's also why we moved the Twitter space from Tuesday to today. And please keep in mind, the Cake platform itself is not, if you're a trader, we are not really the platform for you, because we communicate pretty clearly that withdrawals are not processed instantly. Usually they happen within an hour or 2 hours or 3 hours. The absolute maximum over the last 7 day periods was, I think, 28 hours to process a withdrawal. That was the absolute max, because manual checks are involved. But if you are a trader and you want to trade a hard fork day, which I would never recommend doing that, then probably it is wise to keep your coins on a centralized exchange, because you might have noticed that exchanges like KuCoin or Bittrex, they went down because they needed to upgrade their own nodes to the new software as well. So if you want to trade this, you practically need to have your funds ready on the exchange itself to make the trade. If your fund is on Cake and you want to send them to a centralized exchange, you have two variables that could come along and mess up your strategy. This is that Cake needs to have maintenance and upgrade their nodes, and the centralized exchange that you want to trade on might also have some difficulties in processing those transactions. So just as a side note on this. Then last point that I want to bring up, a lot of people might have seen underneath answers to tweets that we sent out, or if you're participating in on Telegram, there were a lot of feedbacks and users that joined that got a banned account. You violate the terms of conditions and your account got banned. Please don't worry. If you were affected by this, which I very much doubt, you can just send in an email to our support team and tell them, hey, I'm this person, here's my identification, and there will be no issue. Our support team is super fast in answering those requests. And but why is this happening? So why are there people that report their accounts being banned? We have a guideline here at Cake that only one account per person. So you need to have a legit KYC. We're just following local law in Singapore. And if you buy or if you sell an account and you control multiple accounts, we cannot allow that. Now, some people ask, is it a problem that my brother and me are using the same phone and both of us practically have the same IP address or the same hardware that we use? No, of course, that is not a problem. We are talking about large-scale fraud here. So if you see people that are complaining about this, usually, and they admit it themselves, like we have a few comments on Telegram where people comment and say, hey, I control 60 accounts and all of them have been banned, and they are wondering why. So yeah, I just gave you a little bit of the reasons behind that. But if you're a legit user, you did your KYC and you have some funds on Cake, there's no need to be worried about anything. Good. Like I talked a lot, it's already 41 minutes. We have a few minutes left, like 20 minutes. If you want to join me on stage, if you have a question, something to talk about, of course, in a nice manner, in a nice way, as mentioned, the same rules here for Twitter as they are for Telegram, you're very much welcome to do so. If I know you, if you have a profile picture, or if you follow us on Twitter, I'm happy to invite you on stage. We can have a short back and forth. You can share some feedback or a question, and if not, we can end the Twitter space early. Let me know. Just press the bottom left icon on your screen, and this will forward the request to speak, and you can come here up on stage and share a little bit of your experience in this bear market. I will just give you 30 seconds, and if nobody wants to talk, then we can wrap it up here. Maybe also before we get somebody on. Oh, Glenn is here. Let me get Glenn on stage. Glenn is our COO, ex-Microsoft, ex-LinkedIn. Some of you may know him. He was there for the last two Twitter Spaces during my vacation together with Julian. And Glenn, welcome.
Fabio, I have absolutely nothing meaningful to add. I just want to say that this was an amazing monologue. I've enjoyed every second of it. I did not expect you to go for the full 40 minutes, but this was beautiful. So thank you. This was very nice.
Thanks. I was worried that I only would be able to make 20 minutes. I'm very happy that I could keep up my rant for 40 minutes. Let's see if we can go into the full hour. The only one more thing, that we mention this every single Twitter space because we are doing this every single week. Usually it's on Tuesday, midday, 12 o'clock for Europeans and 6 o'clock for Singaporeans. And this will also be available on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcast, and so on. This session today, sadly, is without the image. Like when Julian joins, he has this nice streaming software where we also are able to visualize a few things, show our faces, and then upload this to YouTube. This session today will be audio only. Shout out to Sebastian, who is recording that at the moment and will also be editing this later. Let me just take a brief look at my notes.
Maybe while you do that, Fabio, I just want to add that I think our roadmap for the next 2-3 months looks very exciting. So we have some really cool products being launched. We have some really cool upgrades being prepared. The engineering team is working really hard. So with the view from the inside, I think everybody should be very excited about DeFi chain, very excited about DFI as a token, but also very happy, I think, with the upgrades that we're going to bring to Cake. So yeah, things are looking very nice from my side.
100%. We were a bit cryptic in announcing certain things. So the only thing that we were specific on is that Ethereum staking is coming and the new Earn product, but we didn't go into the details of how these two things look. And there is other things in the pipeline as well. So you might see on the website, there is a few things that are tagged with the tagline coming soon. And maybe, just maybe, a few things that you can see already on the website that we are planning to do. And one more thing, actually, I will go onto the Cake Twitter account right now, and there is a tweet where we are teasing a new product. Like, it's a really cool graphic that one of our designers made, and I'm going to share this in this Twitter space right now. So if you go on top of the Twitter space, you will see we are about to ship one of our best DeFi products yet. Go to this tweet and tell us in the comments of this tweet what you want us to, what features, what functions, what UI improvements, any feedback at all. Please go onto that tweet and leave us a comment. I will make sure that all of these comments are read and forwarded to the right places. If you have any feedback, please leave it there. If you're in our Telegram groups, you can also do that there. But it's probably easier to summarize everything underneath this one tweet. So if you have any suggestions for us in which directions to move, what kind of features you were looking forward to, just drop us a comment there. Okay. So far, nobody raised her or his hand to come up to the stage. That's not an issue. That's fine, because then we can wrap up that space a few minutes early. Please send Julian a heart and a get well soon. He's feeling a little bit under the weather, but I'm very confident that he's going to be back next week for our Tuesday Twitter space, where we are probably going to deep dive into the product that we are about to launch. I really hope so, and of course a few other things that we can discuss, and Julian's mind when it comes to markets, because as many of you know, he kind of has a lucky or a good gut feeling for when it comes to the markets. He's playing these things a lot better than me, at least. Glenn, do you have anything to add before we wrap it?
No, that's all perfect. Thanks, Fabio.
Cool. Sorry for Julian not being here and me ranting for like 40 minutes straight. I hope there was some value. Next week, Julian will be back. Maybe Glenn will be joining us as well. Thank you for taking the time and tuning in on whatever platform you're joining us. And if you haven't signed up to Cake, please do. There is a $30 sign-up bonus waiting for you for your first deposit. And it's a great platform, especially during bear markets. It's so nice to have cash flow on your crypto assets, especially if you're a holder and you have a long time horizon. And I guess most of you are. So thank you again for listening in, and have a great rest of the week, and see you all next week. Bye-bye.